not okay anymore. It doesn't work anymore.
It never has.
You know,
it's like for me, denial's not an option anymore. Well, a lot of my friends used to make jokes and call me chink and stuff, and then kind of go, oh yeah, haha, you know.
And it's this whole thing about, you know, you are not American unless you're white.
Recently, I had a Caucasian man tell me that I don't see you as an Asian person. I just see you as a human being.
Well, one of my personal responses was to try and beat them at their own game. Yeah. So I was the consummate overachiever.
in front of us is this carload of white, very white kids, white kids, younger than us. We're getting on the freeway, and they turn around to us and they all start going like this. And we're all sitting in the car, and I could just feel everyone just freeze and get really rigid. And nothing was said, and nothing was said.
I would want white people to unconditionally accept whatever I say my experience with racism is.
What I don't see from you, what I don't hear from you, is that you feel good about me being an Asian man. See, I'm not ashamed of that.
And the guy who took the picture said, hey, take off that camera, your eyes aren't slanted enough. And I said, Dave,
Japanese
that's
tourists.
racist.
It's so ingrained, it's so degrading, it's so insulting. And I don't want my son to grow up like that. I'm tired of being a survivor.
You give us a hard time for being white, and being American, and being in control.
For a white person to look at me and say, you're just like me, we're both American, totally insults me.
Because you're not allowed to be a black man in corporate America. Walk through some halls with some pride, you're gonna scare some people. Show that you have some intelligence, you scare people.
When my father hit Texas, he never stopped. He went straight through Texas.
The fear is still there because I know it can happen. I know it can happen because it has happened, not to me, but to people who look just like me.
To me, when I hear it from a white person, it means, why can't we all just pretend to be white people? I'll pretend you're a white person, and then you can pretend to be white. Why don't you eat what I eat? Why don't you drink what I drink? Why don't you think like I think? Why don't you feel like I feel?
I'm afraid with these feelings, there will be no progress and no change in racism.
I've got the fear. I don't want to stop. I don't want to be out on a road around here.
But what about guys like Colin Powell? You know, I mean, why do you laugh about that?
I don't have the privilege of not dealing with the Davids in the world.
It's not just all against you. There is much against us also.
I got the power.
But we're on top.
I got the privilege.
Drive through Kentucky and Tennessee and see the Appalachian Mountains up ahead of you. And know you want to get through those mountains so fast.
And all these things seem like doors to shut you out from something.
The cure for the pain is in the pain.
You don't want to believe that man can be so cruel to himself or his own kind.
From here, I can work with you.
I always get uptight when the cops are around. Took my license, he says, get in the car. He didn't say, get in the car, sir. Would you please go back to the car? Get in the car.
I was going to a party over in Kentucky, and I got lost. So I stopped at this bar, and I asked for directions. And this guy gave me directions. And I noticed in his hand, he had a knife, and he had the knife out. And that knife was about this long.
What's different for me than for my father was I haven't fought as many cowboys as he has.
I want you to see me as a valuable person. I want you to see me as someone as valuable as yourself.
And why don't you, with your people, look for something within yourselves that can make you feel equal to us.
I've been stopped in Tennessee doing the speed limit. And you see a cop behind you do the speed limit, they still pull you over.
There's no struggle or strife if we don't cause it.
Racism gets looked at as a person of color's problem, and it's not. Racism is essentially a white problem.
I don't think the society would be able to handle it. I don't think the white people would be able to handle the rage.
And you haven't gone out there like you haven't gotten in proximity to black people, as you say, because you don't have to.
You know, I gotta go to war out here every day.
And there's a way in which American and white and human become synonyms.
Victor's physical appearance frightened me and caused me to immediately dislike him. Before I began this discussion, I thought, well, maybe it's a relatively simple thing, but now I see that, boy, this thing is deeper than I ever imagined.
We will not survive as a human community if we do not find our common ground. If we do not find a shared self-interest and common humanity with one another.
Mun Wah is here with us today, and in a moment we're going to see a clip or two from The Color of Fear, and then all of us are going to go through his workshop. What do you want us to get from, number one, this hour, and the film?
I want us to get that that racism is still going on today, that we've got to stop to hear the anguish and the pain that goes with that, and that we'll survive. But it's not about guilt or blame. There's no founder of racism in this room today. But what we need to do is to acknowledge something has happened and that each of us individually has to do something about it with someone next to us, in our neighborhoods, in our schools, and in our institutions.
Then he asked the audience to stand up.
I'd like you to choose somebody in this room that's very different looking than you. Maybe even somebody that you might be a little afraid of.
He had us talk about our lives and our thoughts on race, but just as important, he made us listen.
I'd like you to remember this, that what you do not say will be heard. So that if you laugh this question off, I guarantee your partner will stay at that same level. If you decide to go just a little bit deeper, your partner will also follow you to that place, and you will have the beginning of a relationship with each other.
The problem is, for a black man, you can't just blend in. It's impossible.
Maybe it's wrong. You know, maybe the role of the white male is a bunch of corporate bunk that we've all bought into.
You don't realize what's going on all around you, even though you don't feel as though you're a prejudiced person yourself. It brought a lot of things out, you know, that make you realize maybe in some instances you really are.
For black males, it's every day. We're not making this up. It's every day. I have no chance, excuse my language, in hell to make it in this country.
What happens as a white woman, nobody tells me I'm better. They tell me I'm normal, and there are people who are less. It takes so much work and so much digging in one's psyche to get it, that if I'm being taught some people are worse, oh my God, that means I'm being told that I'm better.
What it's going to require for us to have a multicultural society is to take the time to walk across a room, to go into another neighborhood, to invite another family into our home and to get to know theirs. We cannot keep working next to people for 20 or 30 years and never know anything personally about their lives. The truth is always there, but saying it out loud, that's the hard part.
I feel like I have some kind of permission to express myself.
She doesn't feel like an American. That bothers me.
Why is your primary identification more important than my primary identification?
I didn't say it was
I am
more
Dene.
important.
I am Navajo first. See?
When I talk about my pain, or Debbie talks about her pain, or Yvette talks about her pain, what's the purpose of saying discrimination comes in all forms? Why
Can you tell Karen, how do you react when you hear her say that?
It makes me feel like we're all discriminated against. And so what?
Get a grip.
Sandy, what's it like for you to hear this?
I feel like as though I'm being lectured to.
Of course, all that stuff drives me nuts, that political correctness sort of stuff.
It's a live and die for me sometimes. I have to put on my costume. When I go to work, I slick back my hair and it's straight to get the curls out.
I understand your feelings.
You are coming from your own pain and your own guilt.
Right.
Examine yourself. Don't put it on me.
I'm trying to figure out who I am, who you want me to be, who you see, how not to offend you, how to know how far to offend you before I lose my job.
I don't want to hear it again.
You don't want to hear it?
Not again. You've explained it.
Then
We
why
don't
should
agree.
I want to hear what you have to say?
Facilitation, please.
Just feel it with me. Don't explain it to me. Feel it with me. But if you can't get there, then I don't want to hear anything you have to say.
What is white guilt? How do you deal with yours?
My family wasn't here then.
Bullshit. You were here. People were here, benefiting from discrimination and prejudice.
When does it feel safe for people of color to be with white people?
It's never been safe for me.
If I leave it all outside and I get to walk in with the skeleton of my true, passionate, loving, caring, beautiful self, I get to leave all of that out the door. That's when I feel safe.
I don't think we've ever really been able to hear how terrifying that can be and how much a person has to sacrifice to survive. I have no words.
Do you want to know? Do you want to know the full truth? Do you want to tell the full truth?
It's uncomfortable for women to literally come up and face men about it.
I'm sure the distribution rate was like 95-5, with me getting 95% and the woman getting 5% because that's where my head was at.
You hold the power. We don't have access. We're blocked.
I am always looking for the cubby. The little cubicles that, that might have 4 under one light. I've never assumed that I'd get a door.
I assumed it was my door. All my role models that I've seen look like me.
And have doors.
And have doors. And when Pat comes in and she asks for a door, I'm going, wait a minute.
Wow.
I said to a white male editor, I know I'm a twofer. I know that. I'm black and I'm a woman. And that might even be why you hired me. But I also know that just because I'm a twofer doesn't mean that you keep me on.
Like so many women, I have been brutalized. Like so many women, I have not been physically safe. And I know that could happen again.
It's shocking, the number of domestic abuse, domestic violence. I cannot believe that somebody can consider themselves a man.
But
I mean, that's cowardly.
looking at the world, that's exactly what it is to be a man.
I've been manhandled physically in an office. I've been thrown on a floor and jumped on in an office. I have been totally disrespected, and not just me.
There was this young woman, the shirt she was wearing was pimp. I stopped her and I said, do you know what that word means?
I would really encourage men to not police women, though. I think that's really important because women survive sexism in any way they can.
You're asking us to step up and you just told me to back off.
Yeah, you need to back off me and the way I cope with sexism. Absolutely.
We need to help these women in the world be safe. That's number one. And the way to do that is to stick our necks out. We have to do that.
My dad liked to have more than his share of sex, and he would demand it. And my mom would be thrown down the hall, crying.
Some nights things would be fine, but you're always kind of listening with one ear, you know, to hear, that's my parents talking in the other room. You're listening to the talking, small voices. You're listening to see if they grow into big voices, which then become yelling and screaming, which then you listen for the first thud, which is my mother being knocked to the floor.
Zora Neale Hurston says, women are the mules of the world. That is how some people see us. And they see us like that so much that we begin to see ourselves like that.